And now, Pro Wrestling and Being a Good Brother present the Brothers in Kayfabe. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Brothers in Kayfabe podcast, coming to you live from the StreamYard studio in an undisclosed location. I am El Gigante, Jake Keel, one of your aforementioned Brothers in Kayfabe, and also with me tonight is
Mr. Aslan, Landon Bumgarner. Jake, as always, it is great to be here with you, my brother in kayfabe.
It is always great. We've had a great week. We've been watching a lot of wrestling and, getting the historian, Mr. Wrestling, has been making videotapes and making additions to his collection over there. And, tonight is a night that we're going to be talking a little bit about collecting and all of that. We've got a very special guest, don't we, Landon?
We do. One that we've been hyping up for quite a while, and it's by no accident. So if you are not into collecting yourself, buckle in and come in with an open mind and open ears, because collecting is such a broad thing. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. So my wife, shoot wife, has just finished graduate school, and just kind of as a treat, we went, and she loves, her favorite TV show is Friends, and so we bought her the Friends apartment Lego set just kind of as a graduation gift. And somebody was like, well, isn't that a little immature? I was like, yo, for the last 70 years we have had grandpas spending so much money on model cars and model trains. I was like, it's the exact same reason they do that. It's the exact same reason you get a hobby car to work on forever. It is the love of nostalgia, and it is the love of the things you like. So I'm super excited for our guest today because is doing some really exciting things. And I think we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg with what he is doing personally, but also there's no telling the kind of stories our guest has. So
Yes,
I'm pumped.
And speaking of nostalgia, the man is draped in nostalgia all the time. The man behind one of the most talked about toy lines in the last year and a half, the Heels and Faces toy line from Zombie Sailor Toys. Mr. Zombie Sailor himself joins us in the Brothers in Kayfabe. How are you doing, Zombie?
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. Not only is Zombie Sailor dripping in nostalgia, he's also dripping in a shirt that's one size too small, but that's a story for another day. Thank you for having me. Let's talk wrestling. Let's talk toys.
Fantastic. Well, let's just get right into it. Zombie, you're a big wrestling fan. You're a big, vintage toy fan and everything. But what got you into wrestling originally?
Oh man, like I don't have like one specific memory that comes to mind, but the first guy that I do remember loving was the Ultimate Warrior. So it had to have been like a match I was watching on Superstars one day back in like 1989 or 1990, somewhere around then. But yeah, Ultimate Warrior is definitely like the first like wrestler that I absolutely fell in love with. And then, seeing the rest of the roster at the time, like, Hulk Hogan, it was like Macho King at that particular moment, and all these other larger than life, like real life superheroes, it just blew me away. And ever since then, I was always like, I guess you could say, obsessed. And it's just such a fascinating world. And I've been pulled into it, and I love every second of it. All that vintage wrestling stuff is something that'll last with me forever, and it's a good time, man. It's a great show, and I just love everything about that whole entire world.
It's one of those things, like, it sounds cliche, but every human being at some point, I'm a firm believer, they start looking back with real fondness on like a certain part or a certain time in their life. It's like, man, like that was the best time of my life. That's when I had the most fun. Or like, for us as wrestling fans, a lot of the time it's like, man, like wrestling may have not been technically the best then or the most popular, but like that was the best time for me personally. Can you remember, so the Ultimate Warrior drew you in? Can you remember like the first time seeing the Ultimate Warrior and maybe like some of the things that, because the Ultimate Warrior is a very, very larger than life character. So what was it like seeing something like that for the first time?
Oh, it was nuts, man. Just like his like muscles and like the veins coming out of every direction, the face paint, just the tassels, the gear, just like everything about him was just like, nuts. Like I remember, my entire life I also loved, comic books, like specifically Marvel comics, and I remember reading those, or not necessarily reading them, but at least looking through the pages and appreciating the art at a really young age. And like I just mentioned, like these guys were like real life superheroes. So seeing like someone like the Ultimate Warrior can just straight up jumped out of a page of a comic book or a set of trading cards. And it was just seeing that like real life, like a talking, breathing person that looked like this superhero was just mind boggling for like, a 5 or 6 year old kid. And he was amazing, man. And shit, man, I'm actually looking right now. I'm recording this in my office, and I'm like staring at like a shitload of Ultimate Warrior posters I have, man. Here I am, 37 years old. The guy left a huge impression on me, and I'll always remember that, and I'll always like like be appreciative of the childhood that I don't say he gave me. He wasn't my father or anything, but like the cool childhood that he helped shape me to where I am today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the connection to like superheroes and comics, because I think that's one of the thing that has been lacking in just wrestling in general the uh last several years is how many people do you have that are larger than life? Not just like in a like, oh, they have an over the top personality, but it's like, man, like there you can look at specific people and you have them with other sports with like Michael Jordan and with Brett Favre and stuff, to where it's like, man, like that's like as close as we're going to get to a real life superhero.
Hmm.
Because it's with Captain America, it's like, well, we get to see actors play him and we get to see his merchandise and we get to see him in comics. It's like, but you could go to a show and see the Ultimate Warrior live with your own eyes, and you could meet him and shake his hand and take a picture. Like I think wrestling is one of
Yep.
those things to where, like it sounds cliche to say superstars, but like legitimate, like superstardom, like it's mind blowing.
Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah, that's it. It wasn't like someone like Spider-Man or Captain America where it was just like a piece of art that you're reading on a page or seeing in a cartoon. It's like, this was an actual real person that was a living, breathing entity. Like this was a man that existed, and it was just wild to see.
So you're very big on the golden era, as they like to put it, of wrestling, late 80s, early 90s, all the over the top kind of guys. So you know who did you really draw towards, besides
Oh
like
yeah, man,
Ultimate
definitely.
Warrior?
Definitely like, just like, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, those like were my guys. And then, like going into like the mid 90s, now I'm like, a preteen, I guess you could say. I mean, I really don't remember like having a favorite. Um, Undertaker was like, really big. I mean, he's been big his entire career. I was never really an Undertaker guy. I was never really a Bret Hart guy. I always like the mid card guys more. Like I was, 11 or 12 years old. I was a huge fan of Owen Hart. I just loved the character. I guess I kind of gravitated towards like the bad guys. Um, I- like IRS, like believe it or not, I remember like, 11, 12-year-old little zombie sailor. I loved IRS because even though I didn't exactly know what the hell the IRS was, and now as an adult, I hate the fucking IRS. But the fact that there was like this evil accountant, I just knew, like in my head, I was probably perceiving him as like an evil like office worker or something. I just thought it was like really silly, and I don't know, there was something about that I liked. Um, I loved Razor Ramon. That's probably my favorite guy in the mid '90s, without a doubt. Razor Ramon, 1, 2, 3 Kid, like Savio Vega. I loved all those guys. Yeah, that was like my jam. Yeah, man.
I,
Oh,
I
that's
love that you brought that up because I'm the same way. Like I talk about how much I love WCW Norman Smiley so much because it's like, no offense to Norman Smiley, but like who's paying to see Norman Smiley in 99, 2000 WCW wrestling Jericho's truck driving security guard for the hardcore title? Like no one's paying to see that. But for me, I'm like, man, like I could get behind Norman Smiley. Like I can get behind RS, those kind of guys.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Nobody was necessarily paying for that, but it was definitely the best part of the show.
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, and
Ralphus, man, that guy was. They probably gave him like, yeah, it was nuts, man.
you look back at like some of the people that are marking out over certain action figures and stuff coming out, like everyone went wild over the Goon coming out. Like people love those weird characters like that, and it always helps the product at that point. Even today, whenever I see someone that's stands out, it's not just a guy in black trunks and black gear. Like they stand out to me.
I was like, man, what was it? Like 2016, James Ellsworth, whenever he showed up as enhancement talent on, I think it was either Raw or SmackDown, gets beat really quickly. And just because of how weird his face looked, everyone was like, yo, like, who is this guy? And guy ended up like having a nice run for a while. I
Yeah,
got to
man.
challenge for the WWE title. It's similar. It's like that whole era of like lower mid card guys. Like the upper mid card guys were great, like Razor Ramon and Diesel, those kind of guys. But man, like Brooklyn Brawler does not get enough credit. Like dude is just insane. And to see like there's like a rumor that if you watch a lot of WWE documentaries from the time Brooklyn Brawler was kind of in charge of production, he's like randomly on everybody's like documentary that came out. Like if it's Hulk Hogan, if it's John Cena, if it's one of the women, like he's just on it. And one day, the story goes, one day Vince McMahon is like, "Why is Brawler on every single video we put out?" And I just love that. Like, why wouldn't he be on everything?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I guess he was like the gatekeeper of sorts. It's like, you had to like face and or beat and or impress the Brooklyn Brawler in order to like enter the kingdom, if you will. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Well, there's the, I think it's a house show. He talks about it all the time, but there was just like a random house show where Shawn Michaels was champion and Brooklyn Brawler got to face him in the main event because whoever was supposed to face him, their flight got canceled. And it's like, man, like I want to see Brooklyn Brawler challenge for the WWE title.
Yeah. Wasn't that Bret Hart, or was that a separate occasion? Like there was a house show at the Garden way back when, like late '90s, and they had a battle royal at the start of the show, I believe, and then the winner got to face the champion later on that night, being Bret Hart. And I think Brawler won to face Bret Hart, or is this extensive drug use from my teen years completely fabricating this story? I'm almost
No,
positive it was Bret Hart.
it sounds like I wouldn't be surprised if it's Brett as well. But it's just one of those things. Like it's hilarious listening to Brawler tell the story because he's like, "Man, I locked in the Boston Crab, and you should have heard that place explode." And it's like, did it really explode, or was it people like me who were like, "Yes"? Like,
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, if he was like, I guess being like, a Brooklyn guy, if it was in the Garden, I guess like the New York hometown was like rooting for him, I guess. I don't know, man. But everyone knew the Brooklyn Brawler, and I guess to see a guy like that's been there forever and like, finally get his due and like wrestle the champion in like the main event slot, I guess it just had people feeling good.
He's one of those guys, like, I would love, like, Royal Rumble 2023, if he comes out, like, I'd be happy. That'd make my night.
Yeah, man, he's quite the character, man. I'm gonna make his toy, and hopefully, we're gonna do a great job. Not hopefully, we're gonna do a great job, and can't wait to see that.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, you said it, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Heels and faces. For the longest time, the people who loved Hasbro,
Let him try to figure that out real quick, and then we're going to go one on one for a second. I'm going to try to go where he might have been going. I don't know exactly where he was
Yeah,
going,
man.
but you know, heels and faces, everyone's been clamoring for retros, especially once they started, kind of falling off of Mattel's radar. Uh, how did you, come about starting the whole heels and faces line?
Um, well, for those that like don't know me or like my past business, like since 2013, 2014, I've been selling vintage toys full time as a full on like job. As crazy as it sounds, just selling strictly through like Instagram. And I was selling like, I was finding old warehouses full of like toys from the 80s and 90s in massive bulk. I was getting really lucky. I was finding old distributors. One connect led to another connect, and so on and so forth. So I amassed quite a bit of inventory, and I sold a shit ton of old figures. I wound up, thank God, saving a lot of money, having really good sales, developing a really good reputation. And I sort of like Hasbro stuff, sold the best, sold the quickest. It was the stuff I was the most knowledgeable in, the stuff I loved the most. And, a couple of years ago when Mattel announced that they were making like, retro style 90s figures, I was all excited until I saw the photos of them. And then when I actually had them in hand, it wasn't what I was hoping that they would be. Um, so I'm like, maybe one day they'll improve, or maybe one day a company would come along and make them better. They didn't improve, in my opinion. No company came to make them better. And then they put them on hiatus indefinitely. So I'm like, damn, this is my favorite toy line of all time. I know these would sell really well if they were given the proper treatment. If someone like stepped up to the plate. So I'm like, wait a second, here I am with this good following online. Here I am with the nice little nest egg that I had in my savings account from, years of selling vintage toys now and just living like, relatively cheap and just saving up to get a house for my family and I. I'm like, I have an opportunity now. I could use this little bit of, like a network that I have to like promote this
Yeah.
and use my savings to invest in this line. Or I could not even bother and use this money to put down on a down payment for a house. The way I was thinking was, I think this could be successful if done the correct way. I would put everything I have into it, not just funds, but like, my like everything that I have, like mentally, my, like just getting the best possible talent I could sign and best sculptors and painters, so on and so forth. So I'm like, you know what? If I fail, I fail. But I think instead of me getting like a decent house now with this money I have saved up, let me put it all into this line. God willing, it's successful. It will be successful. Then I can get even a better house, and that's where we are now. Um, it's just this line took off. Like I was just saying, like no one else was doing it. I figured it's now or never. It's going to be me or nobody. And we're taking 90s style wrestling figures to the extreme, if you will. So we have updated sculpts while still maintaining that scale of like the 90s
Yeah.
figures, and people seem to really love them. I mean, if this is like a 90s wrestling fans or wrestling figure collectors like wet dream, if you will.
Right.
Like I know when I was like a teenager or even a little before, a little after that, these are like the figures that I literally would have dreamt to have. And here I am, and I'm like, thank God the guy doing them, and never looking back. And Our sales are amazing. They exceeded everything I possibly thought they would be. And dude, they just look absolutely awesome. I mean, if you check out zombiesealer.com, you'll see like all photos of them, and check me out on Instagram, whatever. But yeah, they look. I'm not just saying this, of course. I'm like the owner. I'm going to say they look amazing, but believe me, I wouldn't put something out if I thought it was like a half-assed attempt. Like I'm proud of these. It's like I'm like a proud father,
Yeah.
and I just love the way they look. I love the way they feel, how they articulate, the paint, the sculpts, the packaging. I can keep going on and on and on, but these are awesome. And this is a straight, I've said this before, this is a love letter to like 80s, 90s wrestling figure fans. And I couldn't be more proud to be the person at the helm that are actually bringing this to the figure community.
Well, and I'll be completely honest, I was a first day pre-order on a couple of series one. Unfortunately, I couldn't buy all of them at the time, but like I still haven't bought a retro styled figure from a different company. Like they just you're set apart from the paint apps, the attention to detail, you know, and what appears to be, multiple accessories for these. It's like you said, it's like eh, the the toys from my childhood on steroids.
Yep,
Yeah, it,
exactly, man.
it like the best way I think you could describe them is if Hasbro was to, release those styles of figure in 22, imagine with modern technology how detailed, how much better they would look. Cause I mean, they are out of this world incredible. Like the level of detail is insane and it's such a high quality piece, and as a modern day collector, how frustrating is it to find bad face apps, in the store, but with the way just the detail of heels and faces, it's like I don't have to worry about the face being printed like on the side of the head or anything like that.
No, let's hope not. I mean, if you guys get Sabu's with like, eyes by his nipples, let me know. I'll replace them. But hopefully our factory is doing a very good job of making sure all the paint applications are properly applied. But yeah, that's the thing. And now also, you got to understand, like in the store, if you're going to buy like, a highly articulated figure, it's like 20 or $23, whatever the heck it is now, plus tax. Like, these figures that I'm selling, they're $40, and people see, oh man, $40 for a little a damn near non-articulated figure that's a ripoff, blah, blah, blah. People don't realize that, like these are costing quite a bit of money to be made. The production run of each one of these guys is a fraction of what they're selling in a store like a Target or a Walmart. And not only that, what they have in Target or Walmart, their bodies are being reused multiple times. These are molds that have been made in like 2012 that are still getting usage out of it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a business. But with these figures, a lot of guys are individually sculpted. So you're not going to really see the same mold or the same sort of like, parts used, you know, over and over and over again. Sure, they'll be reused from here and there, but for the most part, as a whole, everybody's going to be like their own unique look. And I'm not cheaping out on paint apps. Like you could go to the store again and see it, where this should have been this color, or that should have been gold, or metallic, or tattoo should have been like this or that. Dude, I am not cheaping out on anything. Like whatever color is on that particular wrestler's attire, they're going to get that color. We're not pinching a penny, man. Like we're trying to give you the whole experience and give collectors something they never had before in this sort of scale and this sort of style. And when people get them in hand, they're going to realize that, because now, I can only talk for so long, and you can only see so many pictures. You can only read so many comments or read so many bios in an Instagram post. But until you actually get them in hand, then it's going to really do all the talking. And then that's when, like the floodgates are going to open and people are like, holy shit, this is the real deal. I'm all in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's when everyone's going to be like, "Wait, so can I get series 1?" And
Dude, you have no idea. That's all I'm
hey,
experiencing.
you
Yeah.
you missed the boat.
Yeah, freaking it's nuts, man. So all we're getting now is emails and DMs. And I was telling people, hey, pre-order, you have a month to get it. And now, like, literally, I remember, I have a pretty damn good memory. And people that were like, bashing it or saying too expensive, literally are sliding into my DMs trying to get a set or trying to get a Sabu or Bravo. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
sorry, man. What do you
That
want?
yeah, that's how it always happens. But you know that price point, it speaks volumes of the work that is going into it. It's not like a mass produced figure. Like I collect the Star Wars Black Series figures, and it seems like every 2 months the price goes up, but the quality doesn't go up.
Yeah.
But seeing just literally like from the pre-production drawings from Ron Rudak to seeing like the renders and then seeing the unpainted prototypes and then seeing the painted prototypes, it's like these are literal leaps and bounds better than anything else. Like literally, so like the Mattel retros that have been out, like yours are leaps and bound better, and that speaks volume. Like I love that you said it's like your love letter to 90s wrestling figures, because that shows. And I think like you said, there's some appreciation you can pick up from looking at the pictures and listening to talk about it, but man, like I'm pumped for the reaction of people when they get them in hand. And especially, those floodgates of people are like, crap, now that I've seen it in person, like, okay, like I'm gonna go pay, triple price on the aftermarket to to pay for my mistakes.
Yep, exactly, man. Yeah, they look really amazing. Like yesterday, there was this wrestling convention, 80s wrestling con, I think it was called, like an hour away from where I live. I was gonna go at the last minute. I'm like, yeah, let me go check it out. It's like my buddy, my newfound buddy, Paul Roma, who's now like my arch
Nice.
nemesis. He stole my Kevin Costner cardboard cutout. Check my
Mm.
Instagram afterwards to see what I'm talking about. But he was there. I wanted to go there, say what's up to him. I brought a couple of the production samples there. I showed it to a couple of the guys I know, and everyone was floored. Like nobody's gonna look at him like, oh, this is a piece of shit if they think it's a piece of shit. But I could just tell by people's like actual facial like reactions, they loved it. Like I showed it to Enzo, he was like shaking his head as he was looking at it. It's like, dude, take a picture of me holding this because they just look fucking amazing, man. And it's so good. And another thing with the price point, like again, $40 for a lot of money. For honestly, for what it is, they should be $50, $60. But I know nobody would buy them at that price point. So we have razor thin profit margins. Another thing I left out is most of the talent is getting a percentage of the gross, a hefty percentage, mind you, of the sale of every single one of their particular figures. So it's not like, oh my God, Zombie Hero is getting rich, making all this money. I'm making, I'm doing okay, sure. But at the same time, I'm helping out a lot of the guys that don't have help from like even people like the WWE anymore. Like reaching out to people's families if someone passed on. They're like, wait, what? You want to make a toy of my husband or you want to make a toy of my dad? And I tell them what I'm about, show them photos, give them like an offer for the royalty rate. They're taking it back. You know what I mean? So, not to give myself a fucking Barry Horowitz pat on my fucking back or anything, but, I'm doing like a fucking, like a little, I feel like I'm doing something really good for the wrestling world as well, not just for fans, but I'm, these guys are getting fucking thousands of dollars in royalty checks that they're telling me they never even gotten before from WWE when they were there when they had a figure. So I mean, what is that saying about this little indie guy coming out of nowhere making better figures and paying the talent, what they should have been paid to begin with? I mean, that's a pretty fucking cool thing if you ask me.
Yeah,
Well,
it absolutely is. And like it needs to happen. It's like anything, the more competition there is, the better. But man, when that competition is doing a lot more good than those that maybe have more resources, it's like, that like that's stirring the pot. Like that's making noise right there just in itself.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. And you know what? Like they see that, we're making a good product, we're paying well, and then guess what? All of a sudden I have emails and texts or whatever. Hey, so and so said you're making a figure of them. Do you want to make a figure of me too? And now, positive word of mouth, a positive buzz is everything you need and you could ask for. You could have the greatest marketing team in the world. You could have an unlimited budget, but the most powerful form of advertisement in any sort of market, in any sort of market is a powerful, strong word of mouth. And that's what I'm buying for because we don't have tens of thousands of dollars to get Facebook ads or get TV ads or anything like that, and we're not sold in big chains. It's primarily direct to consumer with a couple of retailers that will be selling it as well. But yeah, man, we just want to have a positive word of mouth, whether it be from the talent or from like the collectors that are getting it themselves, and that's all you could ask for. And you're not going to have a positive word of mouth if you deliver a crap product and don't pay your talent or don't pay your talent well. So we're checking off all the boxes in the right spots, and we're hoping that just makes this crazy snowball effect. And it seems to be we're going in that direction.
Well, and the proof is there. We've had the Major Wrestling Figure podcast already talk about months ago they were already paid for their figures, and how they're still waiting on checks from Mattel. Like it's incredible to
That's
hear what
crazy.
you're doing for these guys, and you know hearing some of the percentages that they're getting versus what they got from Mattel for the, let's just say, their Edgeheads figure. It's insane. I applaud you for what you're doing over there, because some of these
Yep.
guys need the payday too. That's making a difference for some of these older wrestlers.
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah, I mean, listen, with Mattel or whatever, I'm not going to talk ill will about them or anything, but yeah, just it's really like disheartening when you hear somebody like Cardona and Myers, and they're saying on their podcast they got like a $750 royalty check each for a figure that probably generated God knows how much money. It's just crazy. Now, granted, that particular figure was Edge was the focal point and whatnot, but still to have your image in a package and it's still a toy of you, regardless if you're the accessory head or not. I mean, that's just wild how a big conglomerate, a big giant corporate entity like that would just give you like literal peanuts from the portion of the profit. That's just insane. But whatever. Maybe that's why they're billionaires and I'm living in a condo. But for not for long, God willing. But pretty messed up. But here we are. I just want to take care of people and gonna continue doing what we're doing.
Well, especially, like that particular figure was marketed as one that you have to buy 3 of to, be able to do the whole
Yeah.
thing. And I know many people that bought 3, myself including.
Or you bought 6 like me because you had to get 3 to do it, but then they released the updated heads, and it's like, well, I got to get more to get the new painted
Oh
hair.
my god, that's crazy, man. Yeah, they really got a lot of people on that figure, man. That's pretty brilliant marketing if you ask me, but still it's crazy.
uh, I will say this, about your line. I have a friend that I saw yesterday, and he was a fan in the 90s when we were all kids, and you know had the wrestling buddies and the WCW buddies, and had some Hasbros and stuff. And he was the kid that actually introduced me to Hasbros, and now he's not a fan anymore. And I was like, "Hey, we're talking to this guy tomorrow.
Mhm.
Look at his toy line." And I showed him some of the pictures of your Heels and Faces figures, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I would have lost my mind as a kid if I got figures that were this great." And he's like, "And I had that line." Like he's like, "Those are like Hasbros." And he started reminiscing about all of his Hasbros that he had. And I was like, "When I get mine in, I'm calling you so you can come over and take a look at these." Because he was like, "I have to see these in person." So, even the Laps fans are impressed by your product so far.
Yeah.
So
Well, let me
Yeah, that's good to hear.
sorry, I do want to ask you this about it, Zombie. How do you think Zombie playing with Hasbros when they first came out, getting Hasbros when they first came out, enamored with the Ultimate Warrior? I mean, even in your wildest dreams, do you think that Zombie would have ever seen modern day being able to do this? Like to produce those kind of figures, like to actually work and cut deals with the talent to do this.
Never, man. I mean, even still to this day, I like some, it's this is like a full time. Like I don't even want to call it a job. It's a career, man. And this is full time, and I'm like Monday through Friday. I'm not even exaggerating. I stay up until about 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm communicating with China through the WeChat app. I don't know if you're not familiar with WeChat. It's pretty much like instant text messages
Mm.
with China. So I could they could tell me like what's going on in a particular figure, if there's any issues or what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, show me progress. I'm literally up until 4 o'clock in the morning, almost every Monday through Friday. I'm not even exaggerating. And then my wife leaves to go to work at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then I'm dealing with 3 kids all day by myself. That's besides the point. But like, there's so much freaking work involved to do this. I mean, and some days I'm just like so like just shot. I'm like, am I doing this for? This is crazy. It feels more like a job to me. But then, going back to like, your question, sometimes I have to take a step back and like, smell the coffee. And I'm like, holy crap, look what it is that I'm doing. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah, I'm making a lot of sacrifices. But at the end of the day, this is like something that, me as a kid would have never, ever, ever in a billion years would have imagined. And I really have to put in perspective, like, holy shit, look where you got yourself. Look what you're doing. You're making a ridiculous living doing something that you love and have always loved. And then it makes all of the difficult times and all the frustration and sleepless nights like worth it. So yeah, long story short, to answer your question, I never thought this would ever even be a possibility, and I'm forever grateful that I'm allowed to do this. I'm forever grateful for like the fans that are supporting me and believing in me, and believe in the line and pre-order all this stuff without them physically having it in hand, and taking a gamble on this. I mean, it's going to pay off for everyone, and it really is surreal, man. I mean, I'm 37 now. I'll be 38 in January. I mean, so I'm getting kind of up there, and but still, it's like I guess better late than never. And creating a toy line was never really my childhood dream or fantasy or anything of that sort. It was actually to be a wrestler, to be honest with you. But I mean, just to still be involved in this field and like live out this crazy dream scenario. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is like better late than never. And
Yeah.
it's never too late to like pursue your passions and to chase your dreams. And the proof is in the pudding, man. If I could do this and make a living selling and designing my own action figure line, man, you can do whatever the hell you want, because I never would have believed this. 10 years ago, I was broke as a joke. I couldn't even afford a car. And now here I am making some crazy purchases and, you know, handling this big freaking corporation I have now, I guess you could say. And it's just, it's sometimes I just have to freaking just sit back, smell the roses, and just be like super appreciative of everything I have going on.
Yeah, it's genuinely so inspiring. Like for somebody like me who's like, whenever the major pod, whenever the initial wave of pins came out and we hear about this zombie sailor guy, and now to like for me who like doesn't know you personally, but seeing like the progression of like what like just what has happened, the last 3 years uh of it is super inspiring. Like for me, like scoping out your website to be like, okay, like do we have any fresh like Kenner Batman figures popping up anytime soon? But then to seeing like what it's become, like it genuinely is just so inspiring. Like it's literally like a dream coming to life.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, man. And I would say, like, even though like I'm super happy with like heels and faces and everything going on, I must say the most success I've ever had was becoming best friends with Kevin Costner via Instagram.
So, you're a huge fan of Kevin
Do you guys know
Costner's.
that story?
I've heard parts of it, but I haven't heard the whole story. I was
Bet
getting
your
to
ass.
ask you about, the whole story of that.
Yeah, so Kevin Costner, big time A-list celebrity, two-time Academy Award winner, freaking America's sweetheart, if you ask me. And the guy's been famous since like I could since before I was born. And you know, I did a lot of zany stuff to get people's attention on social media, like when it came to vintage toy sales, because like I was saying at the start of the interview, I had toys in bulk from like old warehouse stock. I'm not talking like okay, I have a couple like 6 or 12. No, I had like hundreds upon hundreds of figures, and I got really lucky and I found a set of, well, not a set, a freaking massive find, old KB store stock sealed cases of Waterworld figures. And those figures were going for like $6 on eBay, but they go for nothing. And even though they were case fresh, and that's a big selling point, they're uncirculated, they're pristine. Some people are they want the most pristine looking figures in their collection, because how cool is that to have a figure that's 30 years old, but it's literally brand new and uncirculated? I mean, there's a big difference between having that and finding something at a flea market that someone like wiped their ass with, all fucking mangled in the packaging. So that was my big selling point when it came to these quote unquote case fresh sales. So I wanted to have a little, fun with this. So I played I was always a fan of Kevin Costner, and I played the role of like this crazy obsessed Kevin Costner fucking stalker, like Eminem Stan sort of scenario, but with like Zombie and Kevin Costner. And like I was tagging him, and I never wanted to gain his attention necessarily. I just thought it was like funny, and people were getting a kick out of it. I have like a little bit of a following on social media, not much, but a little bit, and people like seemed to enjoy it. And then just one day, uh I tagged him in a story. When you tag somebody in a story on Instagram, it sends it to their
Yeah.
profile or whatever. I think I wasn't trying to get his attention, so I wrote something to him in the story, just to make people pop, those followers. And I guess he saw it, whatever, and he wrote "LOL hilarious" or something to that degree. And then he immediately started following me on an Instagram. It was Thanksgiving Day 2019 or 2018, wherever freak it was, 2019. And I was like going nuts. I was like, holy shit. It was like the blue check mark verified. I'm like, even if this is an intern, this is pretty freaking cool. It turns out it's like, him like doing this shit. And friendship, if you will. Like Kevin Costner on fucking New Year's Eve 2020, he sends me like, minutes before midnight, I guess where he was on the West Coast. I'm in New York, East Coast time zone. And it was like 2:50 something AM, which was probably minutes to midnight. He sends me a fucking video saying, thanks for making videos. You've been really cool, blah, blah, blah. And he's clearly tipsy, having a drink, sends this to my Instagram. And I'm like, dude, this is fucking Kevin Costner. The guy's a household name, A-list star. I can't stress that enough. And here he is, a couple of minutes before midnight, the year 2020, sending Little Zombie Sailor a fucking New Year's Eve message. I'm like, the fact that I occupied even 1/15th of a millisecond of fucking real estate in his goddamn mind to send me that video just completely just made my whole world melt. And ever since then, it just exploded. Like, I'll tag him and shit. He'll leave comments. It's crazy. He sent me a video a couple of days, like mere days before Heels and Faces pre-order launched last June, wishing me, good luck on the toy line. I posted it. This is fucking crazy. This is publicity you can't buy, and it all happened organically. It's like Mankind and The Rock. You know what I mean? Like it's like Rock and Sock connection.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect odd couple, and it's crazy, man. That social media and action figures at the end of the day led me to this life that I'm living now, and it's just like a crazy dream, and I never want to wake up.
Like I'll never forget getting on Instagram on New Year's and seeing that video of Kevin Costner. He's like sitting like at his kitchen counter or like the bar, and he turns. He's like, "Hey, zombie," and I was just like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
like okay, like how much how much of was the cameo charge to for this to happen? But seeing this, he's like, "Whoa!" Like he's actually like commenting. He's like that. It's like once again, it's like a dream come true. It's like real life fairy tale stuff.
Yep. 100%, man. That's where everybody assumed, like, oh, cameo. No, he doesn't have a cameo. And you know what's funny? Like, the video last year, when he was like wishing me the Heels and Faces, like, good luck on it, whatever. Somebody wrote, oh, how much was the cameo? Somebody literally wrote that in the comments, and fucking Kevin Costner, or Big Kev as I like to call him, he writes back. He comments to the guy. He writes cameo. He writes cameo schmameo Team Banana for life. Which Team Banana, for those that don't know, which is every single person listening to this, is this fictional group that stars me, Kevin Costner, and this gorilla Banjo, who's part of my stable. Which he lived in the Congo, and he was part of my Congo Case Fresh Kenner action figure sale. That's how I was promoting that, and a fucking guy in a gorilla suit promoting the Congo figure sale. That's how we did it, and he just basically been on my side ever since. So yeah, the trio combined, we make Team Banana. So yeah, to the guy writing the cameo, whatever, he's like, "How much cameo are you?" He writes back, "Cameo schmameo, Team Banana for life." And just seeing that, like that, this fucking guy is writing that. It's just like it's like I think that is hysterical. Like this guy, he's like Kevin Costner, 50 something years old, whatever, 60 years old, whatever the hell he is. This guy's in fucking Yellowstone right now. It's like the hottest show on television ratings wise, and it's fucking brilliant if you haven't watched it. And again, he's sitting there just just A, sending me the video, and B, like actually through the comments to read this and defending this choice to send me a video. Isn't that fucking wild?
It's insane.
It's one of the greatest stories ever.
Yeah, so here we are, man. Here we are. So yeah, Heels and Faces number one. And we have the support of Big Kev. So yeah, we're pretty much untouchable for the foreseeable future, God willing.
So what I was going to ask was, you know, if you could sign one talent to your action figure line that you haven't yet, that's out there, it can be, you know, anybody on the planet, who would it be?
Oh man. Well, like I mean, of course, like wrestling wise, because you know it's like a wrestling line. Uh Man, honestly, it would probably be Hulk Hogan, to be honest with you, because you know his name is synonymous with wrestling, and I would just love to do like a kick-ass like Hollywood Hogan figure.
Mm.
Oh
You know,
man.
because you know another, you know, when the NWO was at its hottest, man, I loved the NWO. Like who didn't? I loved Hollywood Hogan, and like you know his outfit or his gear, I thought was like amazing. And I would just love to do like a true like vintage style Hollywood Hogan figure with like you know the lightning bolts and all that stuff.
Mm.
And the cool thing about Hogan, you know, he's a smart guy. That's how he got so far in wrestling. I mean, naturally, um, he owns his name, he owns his image, he owns his likeness, he owns his gimmick. So that's something that I would legally be allowed to do if I were to have the Hulk Hogan name. So I mean, I'm not throwing any like you know innuendos like I have Hulk Hogan. I swear to God, I do not. Have I contacted him? Of course, but he can't do it right now. But maybe in the future we can get Hulk Hogan, and that would be a damn amazing figure. So he's definitely
Yeah,
the number one
definitely.
guy I would love to have one day. Yes, sir.
Well,
Absolutely.
let me ask you this: if you could do an Ultimate Warrior, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you could design an Ultimate Warrior for Heels and Faces, do you know what color outfit, what color gear and face paint you would choose?
Oh, absolutely. Shit. I hope I don't get massacred for this, but well, like I want to say what was that Royal Rumble '91 when he faced Sergeant Slaughter. He had the red, white, and blue. That's definitely what would be the first thing I would do. I'm pretty sure, right? That was WrestleMania Royal Rumble '91. He took on Slaughter. Macho King cost him the title. Hit him with the scepter. I'm pretty sure he had like a red, white, and blue like gear that day. I think he did. Was it?
I'm
I think
looking
it
at
was it. Forgive
pretty
me.
sure that is the one. Yeah, that's
Yep.
the one where he
Rumble
has the
91.
warrior logo that's going all over the trunks and they're all red, white, and blue. Kind of what Cardona did for that ultimate broski gear that he did.
Yeah, man. I remember that was like, you know, like that was like one of my core memories as like a childhood, like as a child watching that. Like I remember like I was crying in that match because Ultimate Warrior, this big unstoppable good guy, lost his belt. I was 6 years old. And I was just like so heartbroken that, you know, the good guy had fallen. And I was
Mhm.
so pissed. But yeah, I would just love that outfit and just it was just so great and it would take you back to a great era. So yeah, that would be if I could legally be allowed to do that, that's what I would do. 100% as the first outing. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure he's ironclad with good old Vinnie Mac. So I mean, I don't see anything happening like this anytime soon. So
If you were allowed to do a warrior, would you try and find a way to do maybe like an interchangeable head so you could have like face paint worn off warrior? Like, would you make that exception for a warrior figure?
yeah, possibly like you know, like I was always a big fan of like not just for wrestling figures, but like any like sort of toy line from anything like battle damage shit. Like you know, I remember
Mm-hmm.
I had like what was it called? It might have been called Battle Ravaged Spider-Man from the Spider-Man animated series line. He was like messed
Yeah.
up his one of his like you could see like his eye. It was a really cool figure, and I always liked toys like that. So like to have like a battle damaged Ultimate Warrior figure where he's like all fucked up and the face paints off or whatever, and his hair is like a little more wet because from the sweat from his 9 minute match or whatever. I would definitely love to do that. So yeah,
I
that'd be fucking crazy.
I personally have one hope that you could do in this line, and that's like we have never had a badass Dr. Death Steve Williams figure. And I know like in the hands
Yeah,
of
definitely.
yourself, you would knock that out of the park. And us being we're from Oklahoma, he's like a legendary
cool.
hero around these parts. So, that's one hope that I would one day have, is that you would do Dr. Death figure.
Oh, for sure, man. Doc and Gordy, like to do that, and with like also like in a two-pack with Terry Dead and Gordy or whatever. I would love to do that. Yeah, to my knowledge, he's not signed with anybody. Um, one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to like signing talent is like just even finding out like who is like the heir to their estate, if
Right.
you will. Like not only am I designing toys and on the phone, or I should say text with China 24/7, but I swear to God, I'm more of like a detective than I am like a toy designer. Just like going on Facebook, going through old, like obituaries. I hate, as morbid as that sounds, to find out who the name of some family members and to find them.
Right.
Big, big, big ordeal, man. So it's like it's all about finding out, who his ex-wife is or surviving siblings, and it's just like it's really difficult. Um, so if and when I could find out who those people might be, then absolutely I would love to have a Steve Williams figure, man. Because like what he had like one figure from like Jax back in the
He
day.
had two. He had one Bone Cruncher, which was classically the shelf warmer of all shelf warmers. And then he had a Jax Classic.
Without a doubt.
He had a Jax Classic, and it's very hard to find. And it's like, it's good, but like there could be a awesome Dr. Death, with the boots and the robe and everything. It would be amazing.
Shit, man. Just coming to mind, I would probably have it designed like with his like tongue sticking out. Like I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people. I would just that's how I would design it. Um, but yeah. But speaking of shelf warmers, man, I remember that shit. He was like everywhere. I remember like wrestling was super hot back then, and my local Toys R Us had this big section with like wrestling figures when you kind of first walked in. And I remember they had like just nothing but like him. Like it was all fucking Dr. Dusty Williams and like the occasional like Jacqueline figure. That's all that it was. You couldn't find anybody else. It was crazy, man.
This is what I always picture, is this hair right there with the tongue out. Like it would be perfect. Uh, that's one thing that I hate about the Bone Cruncher, which I have. It's got that little bowl cut, like weird, like almost mom hair that he had during that point. And I know it's
Yeah.
supposed to be depicting like a very certain point, but it's just he never had a really good figure, and he's one of those guys that just was a legend and deserves a really good figure. So
I will do my best, man. Like I really have him on my radar and I would do an awesome figure for him, man. Just he's a freaking good name, man. And for him not to have I only have two figures and the last one being out probably at least what 15 years ago, it's kind of like a travesty, man. But hey, if I could do it, I'll do it and I'll do you guys proud. I promise.
well, we're glad to hear that. But we loved having you on. It's been great seeing you, over the years kind of take this business to a new level. I can remember finding you on Instagram like almost 8 years ago, and you were just selling vintage toys. And I was like, how's this dude finding this stuff? Like I was amazed at these cases, because you'd be like, found some more cases, like a new warehouse of case fresh vintage figures. And it was like from lines that I didn't even know existed. And it was insane to see, like Waterworld. I love that movie unironically. Like my dad loved that movie. And so to find out, like until today, I didn't know there was a Waterworld toy line. Like that's insane to me. And it's cool to see what you've done and like how you've progressed in your business.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, just it's a lot of hard work, man. A lot of hustling and a lot of endless calls and emails to find this stuff. And you know what? It was all done for the greater good. Like and just a really quick thing I just want to mention. Like in 20 summer of 2015, which is crazy that it's approaching 7 years ago. I found like what really put me on the map is I found like a warehouse full of Hasbro figures, WWF Hasbro figures, and it was nuts. I've had like there was like literally over 100 Macho Man Series 1s in there
Oh
and
my
Ultimate
gosh.
Warriors. And at the time, they weren't going for a lot, and I was charging, a premium, of course, because they were uncirculated. But now you fast forward 7 years, and what I was selling them for then, now granted it was 7 years ago, it's like I was giving it away. Like now they go for crazy amounts of money. And if I had the same amount of figures, if I never sold them and I kept them, and God forbid I got them graded, it would probably be worth, fuck man, well over $1 million. If I just thinking how many figures I had. And people ask me from time to time, "Oh, Zombie, do you regret selling your Hasbro? You would have made so much more money, this and that." And my answer is absolutely not, because A, how the hell did I know they were going to go up in value?
Mhm.
And B, if I never had those figures and I sold them back then when I did, I feel like, again, I'm not saying this with a full head. I'm just saying, mathematically, it all checks out. Like, granted, the Major Wrestling Figure podcast caused a huge spike in this, but I feel like once I got those figures out there, it reinvigorated this whole fucking culture of Hasbro enthusiasts that came out of the woodwork. Were like, holy shit, I had these figures back in the day. Let me buy them. Okay, this guy's on the show. He has all of these guys, but he doesn't have these guys. So now let's go to eBay and complete the collection. So I feel like I truly did open up the lid to that Hasbro love. And if I never sold them back in the day, not only would this not have put me on the map, it never would have gave me the funds to finance the next Case Fresh lot, to finance the next one, to finance the next one, to truly get to where I am now, selling, these Heels and Faces figures, having my own brand. So it was for the greater good. And if I never sold them back then, there would probably not be a Heels and Faces line. So everything happens for a reason. And I'm very proud of everything I've done, and I love it. And I always go back to a story, Kevin Smith. I'm not necessarily a Kevin Smith fan by any means. I don't hate the guy, but I'm not really a fan. And he's a big comic book guy. That's what he's known for. And the story is him being a big comic book dude. He had a great collection. He was like, I guess I would imagine his whole like life or whatever, is at least his young adult life. And he sold like all or most of his collection, of his comic book collection, to get the funding for Clerks.
Yeah.
And now just think, if he kept his comic book collection and never funded Clerks, he would probably be a guy just working at like, overnights at like a convenience store. I'm not, being derogatory in any way. I'm just saying, you never know. So
Mhm.
if I held on to those figures, and maybe I made $1 million, and here and there through eBay, auction houses, whatever, I would never have what I have now. So basically, what I'm trying to get to is just, life is crazy. I'm super thankful to be where I am, to be doing what I'm doing, and I appreciate everybody out there that's listening to this, that supports me, supports the line, and more importantly, I love you, Kevin. If you're listening to this, I know you are, and
Hey,
that's pretty much all I got to say, guys.
Kevin Costner, if you were listening to this, please give us a follow. Please.
Just
Yeah,
please,
I'll
Kevin
see what I could do.
Costner, share the link to this podcast.
That's all you need.
Right.
I
That'd be
do.
awesome.
Zombie, do you think, because I don't see this more as like an upcoming thing. I see it as maybe, by the time maybe Heels and Faces like series 5 and 6 is out, would you ever do like a limited enamel pin release, like similar to the Hasbro looking ones you've done? Would you ever do like, hey, here's series 1 as pins, here's series 2 as
That
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Like a lot of the guys, like their contracts that we have, like it'll say also for like vintage style figures or whatever scale figures, and also enamel pins. So it's definitely also on the radar, something I want to do. But at the same time, it's like I don't want to like force people to like choose, am I going to get a pin for $12 or $10, or get a figure for
Right.
$40? So like right now, like for the past year, other than the pre-orders that came out last June, the Jeff Jarrett figure we had last July, or the Danhausen figure we had in November, there's like nothing on the website to buy. So I feel like the perfect little like segue for people that are waiting or people that are late to the party, I could always have pins up on there and get something to commemorate the line. And it'll always be like a constant product to have on there. So yeah, definitely, I'm 100% gonna be doing pins again. Like definitely after the first series comes in and ships to people's homes and they get them in hand, definitely gonna start doing pins again. And they'll be exactly like that. At least what I envision now, like small versions of these figures, and same thing, officially licensed. Guys will get a cut of it. And yeah, so if you support the line, you like those retro style figures, you could put them on your vest, on your shirt, backpack, whatever, and you could have those as well. So yeah, those are definitely going to be here sooner than later, and those take a lot less time to be created than an actual action figure. So yeah, it wouldn't take much time or effort to make those.
Well, fantastic. We're about to get out of here and everything. Don't want to take up too much of your time tonight, but is there anything coming anytime soon that we should be watching out for? Or
Well, last year, like last July, we had the San Diego online exclusive Jeff Jarrett that came out, which was based on an unreleased orange card figure that would have came out from the WWF Hasbro line, so it was inspired by that. Um, it should be shipping soon, so I would like to continue the tradition of doing a really cool online San Diego Comic Con exclusive. So that's all I could really, or all I really want to say for now. So just you know, be on the lookout for a cool San Diego Comic Con online exclusive. And it would be nice if people can get their Jeff Jarrett before the Comic Con 1 year anniversary elapses, before I'm asking for more pre-orders. But it's going to be a really cool figure what we have coming out. So stay tuned for that. And Series 2 will also be up for pre-order shortly once people get the Series 1 figures in hand, because that's the thing. I don't want to keep asking people to support something before they actually see the
Right.
figures to see what they're all about. Because there could be somebody hate. I don't think anybody's going to hate these, but I just wanted people to say, hey, these are real. This is a real deal. I actually have them. Okay, now we could order Series 2. Now let's get the ball rolling. So once all of the orders ship out, I'll wait like 2 weeks for people to start arriving in homes and people to start reviewing them. And then I'll open up the door and put Series 2 out. So yeah, just within the next 2-3 months, things are going to get like insanely exciting, man. And the figures are going to be here a lot quicker. So everything down pat now. And there's gonna be really cool guys that are gonna be like one-off exclusives and whatnot, and it's gonna be insane when you guys see what's going on.
we can't wait. I literally await the day that I see a Zombie Sailor toys box hit my front porch, full of awesome retros. Um, but yeah, now we're in the part of the podcast where we usually let our guests, plug anything that they've got. So if you got anything else you want to say, now's the time.
Yeah, just you could check out the website zombiesailor.com. I primarily post on Instagram. It's at Zombie Sailors Toys. Twitter is at the Zombie Sailor. That's pretty much it. Just check out the website. Um, just check out the Instagram, give us a follow. Like, you never know. Like, I could just randomly post something that, blows people's minds. There's no rhyme or reason. It's pretty much how we're feeling that day. We could have nothing planned, like, slow news day. Let's just show them this concept art of so and so, and it could just, blow people's minds again. And it's pretty much it, man. Oh, and also another thing I left out, I just wanted to add this in. A gentleman that designed a lot of the early '90s wrestling figures. His name is Ron Rudat. He's a legend of like the toy world, if you ask me. He
Yeah.
did a lot of stuff for GI Joe. He is designing each and every one of these figures. He's not sculpting it. He was never a sculptor. He's always been an artist, designer. So he does the blueprints for all of these figures. So I figured, damn, that adds a ton of credibility right there. So it's like, why the hell did Mattel never get this guy to do this? I'm like, God damn, just a wasted opportunity. He's like 60 something years old, but he still has it. He could still go. So I'm giving this guy work, and he's also designing all the figures to make him as true to like '90s figures as possible. So I just wanted to add that in there. That's a big important tidbit of that Heels and Faces line. So I just wanted to throw that in and let people know. So it's really cool, man. It's, I'm a traditionalist. I'm all about the past, and everything in the world today sucks. So I just want to keep living in the '90s, and don't ever wake me up, please. So yeah, we're just trying to stay in the past and bring you guys there along with us.
Hey man, you're talking to the right people. Like, I'm a guy that's sitting here with cassette tape sitting next to me. Like, we're both big on preserving the past, and it, Landon is huge on doing VHS tapes and everything. So we love what you're doing. It really just brings us back.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'm glad we're speaking the same language, and I really appreciate you guys having me on and hearing my story. And I appreciate that, and thanks for giving me a platform to help spread my word and tell my story.
Thank you, Zombie. We really appreciate everything you've got. Landon, I think your mic is unplugged. We're not getting anything from you.
myself. My bad, guys. You want?
No
I'm
problem.
going to put you on the spot just one more time before we let you go, Zombie. We do always ask our guests to give out homework for the week, and that is just suggesting a match for people to watch. Whether it's your favorite match, whether it's just a random one that you've just watched recently. Like, tell the fine listeners at home what's a wrestling match they should watch this week.
Shit, man. I mean, whew. Damn, honestly, I mean, speaking about my dream guy to have in the lineup, Hulk Hogan, I would say, go back and rewatch Hogan versus The Rock from, what was it, WrestleMania 18, right? Dude, that
Yes.
match, man, just thinking about that gives me goosebumps, and that's everything. That's professional wrestling personified. When you hear that, the reaction from that crowd and just the looks on both wrestlers' faces and the near falls and the kickouts and seeing the crowd go nuts. That's probably my favorite match of all time. And I'm literally getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And that's just what wrestling is all about, man. Just that emotion. It just personified everything. That was like the perfect storm. Like, at the time, wrestling's past meeting wrestling's future, coming head on, a changing of the guard. And man, that match will fucking live forever. It'll go down forever in history as one of the best, if not the best. And that match is just amazing. So I'm sure everybody listening to this has seen that match multiple times. If you haven't seen it in a while, I would recommend just going back and seeing what wrestling was, because nowadays I'm not really a fan of AEW. I respect what these guys do. Believe it or not, I do not watch modern wrestling. I haven't watched wrestling regularly probably since CM Punk left, like in 2011, like no exaggeration. I just can't get into it. Again, I respect what they're doing, but I like the characters, and those characters have been long gone, unfortunately, for a while now. But man, that Hogan versus Rock match, man, that captured everything that wrestling was from that time period. And yeah, go back and watch that, man. That was magic right there.
All right. Well, once again, we want to thank you for being on. This has been a tremendous interview. We've really enjoyed having you on. You've been one of our best guests on the pod. And we like to send everybody home with something that every wrestling fan knows. You being a 90s guy, you've probably done this before. We like to strike up a little bit of one of these, and we like to give it right to the camera. What is that, Landon?
It's that life and heels and faces action figures are just too sweet
for life. Thank you again, Zombie.